Radio Einheit.
Wie, kein Abradio?
Dann mach ich nicht mit.
Hallo, hier ist Horst Grube.
Thanks. Thanks to those who give a voice, to the people who are suffering this war against truth, this war against the results of a nature disappearing, of an increasing depth since we are born, of an increasing natural disaster that we already didn't realize is provocateurs of provocation. It's look the only way to achieve an action. We are so blind that we cannot be tender now. We enjoy this sadomasochist game of suffering.
Und ich grüße das Kommando Horst Grube.
It's like we need to smoke 50 cigarettes a day to calm our constant desires. We need to escape the drama of a day by fucking the life of somebody else. Because we are still idiots. We are still just assholes, smiling to the necessity of feeling us important. Of feeling that we can control others. That we can change something. And this is where is the change that is needs to cut. To liberate ourselves from this manifestation of self-destruction. As I see it, we are part of the world. And killing it, it kills us. Just that simple. A balance from life and death in a natural law that the universe shows us with the act of nature. Well, I think we cross over. And nature is starting to tell us, I'm sorry. But if you think I cannot speak your language, it doesn't mean I cannot make you disappear. And we pay. We always pay. Since I visit conferences, in between travels, I realize I have an elemental power to communicate. Usually with a really short, strong description of an idea or a creative opinion. I'm not the one who always is talking, but I'm really sure most of the things that inspire me, it's looking to try being possible by interaction. Why not? Why should I be less than that man that is speaking in that moment to a million people? What I'm afraid of when I got a new idea, and I do it every time I have the chance to express openly. I do it, and I do it. I have to say, in this world of art, even more difficult than on any other world of expression, it's painfully. With mistakes, with understandable questions, or with other not so predictable language, communication, base of understanding, of put things together to make something. And this nature of neglecting us just as a gasoline to go further. Yes, repulsion to person and person. Just sometimes makes me stronger. So if you wanna beat me, just tell me how good I am. In a really small quantities, people find support. Maybe not directly, but how I see the world, I have to say that the real support is in the action. In the action of people who is trying to express in the same way. And I'm finding.
Ich wünsche viel Erfolg.
Ist mir völlig egal.
I'm community of action. In this social, interconnected world of reality, outside the walls. Anyway, I untwist any source of information that don't come from your eyes. This is a reality. This is the reality for me. When you stand in front of me and tell me something, we are dreaming together. In a metaphoric way or in an indirect situation. I'm with you. Because if it's something really important, it's now. It's the chance I have to meet your eyes and see the universe. See you smiling about the concept we just created. And with this undeniable expression of hope in the moment as real, in that descriptive world space we just share in between and find so big. This is about all. About the originality of our expression.
Ich will ja nicht, dass das jetzt so aufgenommen wird.
And the value when we are finding us personally. Whatever you are in this place, whatever you are in this judgment society history behind we have, whatever people say about you, I'm just a mirror of that moment. And that moment is a mirror of us.
Dass sie gesendet werden. Welcome to a new planet. A new planet that wants to communicate. A new planet in the air. Sending lights, sending messages, sending wishes, sending sensations. We got
a new friend coming today. It's Heather. How are you, Heather?
I'm good, how are you?
Fine. Welcoming back to radio in Berlin. And practicing my English. What brings you to Berlin?
The Global Square is a project I work on that brought me to Berlin for the last month and the next month to come. We came for the Berlin Biennale for a hackathon and to work on the Global Square. The hackathon is a bunch of software developers who have the idea to build a new system, a different way of communicating, a different structure for us all to create and have mass collaboration without some of the problems that we have nowadays, a horizontal system. And a system that gives us more autonomy but more ability to create together. So we have all got together and trying to decide some common goals that we can all work towards and still maintain our autonomy, but work together to build something quickly enough that we can actually assist the change that we see that the world needs right now before it's too late. So in the last month we've come up with some overall principles that we all agree to. The certain group of hackers that work on projects that are mostly social media based. The Global Square had a whole list of principles themselves that are hard-coded into the design, but this group of us, we agreed that what we need for our systems are privacy and anonymity for individuals, so that the individuals in our society can stay strong and still be able to express themselves and create. And because the individuals are the weakest things in a society, if a group is creating the governance, an individual is always going to be at risk, so we protect them first. So a lot of the projects that are involved with us are involved with cryptography and anonymity and protecting people so that they can create and build safely. And what the Global Square is about is transparency for action organizations. So people can communicate, but we're mostly interested in people communicating in order to build something. We want people to build and create new systems of governance, new systems of mass collaboration.
How difficult is to, as a no so professional user of internet, how difficult is to learn this encryption system? How difficult is to use the tools you're trying to develop? One example, you find somebody who wants to be free, information is encrypted, example.
Well, the overall goals of the hackathon involve a lot of different projects, and each one of them has their own design and their own usability and their own... We were talking earlier, the idea of a trust network and the idea of security is so individual. If you ask any two people who they trust, why they trust them, and what they would trust them with, you're going to get different answers from almost any two people. So a lot of different solutions is a very good thing. Particularly one of our overall design goals that we all agreed on is we don't want any centralized solution.
Yeah?
We don't want central points of failure in security system that everybody relies on. That's a central point of failure for all of us. So we want a lot of different solutions to suit a lot of different users as far as security is concerned. For the Global Square, we can provide a secure environment for users as well, but our goal is unbreakable dissemination of news and to build systems that people can't take down. So we're more of mass dissemination, reaching a lot of people all at once and creating, on a peer-to-peer network, creating a backup system that nobody can take down without taking the internet down itself. So two different design goals, but...
So you're looking at people turning to journalists, no way?
People turning into journalists, absolutely. We were talking earlier. We think the systems that we have now in the world for everything, news, health, housing,
Okay.
Unstable network at radio.
food, everything, our system, which means that everything that we need is
Waited for at bonus.
isolated in this little pod away. It's all funneled through a giant artery, and it's doled out of us with just how much we by official channels. And we think it's a system of dissociation. It's not a society at all. There's no relationships. There's no dependencies. Everybody's dangling from their own little thread, and we can't have access to anything. So we want actual society where everybody can participate in the news. Of course, everybody's the news. Everybody is allowed to disseminate the news. The profile on the Global Square would allow anybody to blog, do microblogging, do regular blogging, live stream the news. And the other, so in a Twitter time news feed from everybody. But the other part of that is we also need verified news. System that we have now with the mainstream media and bloggers is not really very helpful. It can be helpful sometimes if you happen to read an article, but the article is still the exact same bias, frequently not sourced at all. Even when it's good, the next day the article's gone, or nobody looks it up anymore. So we need an unbreakable news stream in Twitter time, and we also need knowledge repositories built that we keep adding on to constantly, so our knowledge just keeps growing and keeps being interrelated.
Die Delfine wollen ihr Radio zurück.
So that we can actually start seeing what's going on in the world properly. Not just one article at a time, but getting an overall picture, like what Wikipedia does, but much more so. With
Alle Rapper wollen ihr Radio zurück.
much more between all the news that we're using. So yes, everybody can create the news from their own personal profile, and if it's factual and verified,
How?
then how can they create the news?
No, how is verified? I mean,
Source documents. If you say this source document said this, then and you back it up with a source document, then it did. So, like if you have a legal case and you say this affidavit said this, produce the affidavit, and it's verified news, right? So you can't. There's shades of reality. So you just have to be careful what you say. You can't say this happened. You can say this document said this happened. And, beyond that, you strip off all the opinions and the conclusions and the adjectives, and you can never get real news. You can never get what is a fact. You can never get unbiased news, because the minute you put it up, you're showing bias. But you can get a reasonable facsimile. You can get something close. You can get something that doesn't say what it doesn't mean. Like you can say this document said this rather than I saw this. We can and allow room for all opinions. So even if only one guy, if he has a source document that proves it, not all opinions, all verifiable facts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a popularity contest. It's who has the best source documents, and they all have to be up there. Because one of the things, we don't have quite enough different opinions in a lot of knowledge repositories.
Mm-hmm.
Because looking even at Wikipedia, they will have, even things like the size of a country or a population or anything like that can be highly contentious depending on the country. And you can't just change the facts depending on where you are. In a global system, you have to show all the facts and the reasoning behind them.
do you think there is a possibility in the future that regulations the internet can be or can find the first example of a world way of find a legal sustain? Can be internet the first source of example of a world legislation?
Do we want a world legislation? Is that a good thing?
Well, if it's good basis
Wegen 99.
on it.
One of the ideas, not speaking for the Global Square or the Hackathon or anything here, just myself, one of the ideas that I really think needs to happen in my ideal world is we need to get rid of nation states because we've outgrown them pretty much as we've outgrown city-states, and we need to start looking at governance by user group much more. In most countries in the West right now, what we have is arbitrary borders, and every arbitrary period of time we elect a new, almost arbitrary leader, and that leader is the governor of everything for the next however many years that we decide.
Punkt 1 Herbstradio.
Right? Of everything, that artificial boundary, and it's ridiculous. And things that happen in your neighborhood should be of your neighborhood. If it doesn't affect anybody but you, it's your business. And if it affects the entire world, it's the world's business. And what we've got right now, we've got a system where our arbitrary governments, they decide who can marry who. How on earth that's their business, I have no idea. You'd think it would be just the two of you. But also, you have governments that say not only do they own, they can assign the rights to something like an ocean, to a corporation, to destroy, like has happened with the Pacific, with Japan's radiation, with the Atlantic, with the BP oil spill, with the Arctic, with all the countries wanting to drill oil. Even our generation doesn't own the oceans. Even our generation, best we could possibly do is be caretakers of it. But somehow we've even decided ownership from that by nation state, which is absolutely absurd. So we've got to get into more of a system of governance by user group, where, I'm sorry, the user group for the oceans is not even our generation or our species. But, and for Berlin, possibly sometimes it's just the neighborhood that should be deciding things. Or possibly it's Europe. And we really need to start thinking more that way. Also, for a lot of the global systems that we'd like to look at in the global square, it is ridiculous to be competitive with different corporations and different countries all working towards the same solution but hiding everything on each other and not sharing and not collaborating at all. And, even things like health systems, there ought to be a global health system and not, the World Health Organization. Not separate pharmaceutical companies, and there ought to be global solutions. Definitely on the internet to be global solutions. There ought to be global communication solutions.
Today it's so easy not to go to other countries just with a click and ask a question in Uganda.
All the satellites we've got floating around up there for no apparent reason, when, how many would it take to provide service for the entire world? Not very many. But they're all blocking each other. This is so ridiculous.
Well, it's the fight about who has the hand, no? Who has the...
And who gets to surround the electromagnetic field. So, governance by user group, I think, would be a very good thing. Global legislation, and maybe if it's related to oceans or a global commons. I believe a global commons is a very We are far too small a world now to not have such a thing as a global commons. And, and that shouldn't be up to the individual nation states to sit there and say, well, we won't participate, Canada won't participate in Kyoto and Japan. It shouldn't be up to them. It should be a global commons and a global commons organization that is responsible for each of these things, for caretaking them. Yes?
Yeah. But I just imagine a bridge between the government and the people for solutions like ecological solutions, no? Like why China, USA say no, we don't want to support the natural resources, we want to keep on the production boom, and why not, no? To jump, but of course, no, the corporation don't want, but so I think the nature could be in the future, or internet, no? Maybe a possibility of find a boat in the people around the globe deciding, no? some situation. I think there's a problem between corporation and governments, no? To find an agreement for the best, no? of the environment.
For boat.
We have to make a more short pause.
Okay.
We'll let people think.
Okay.
And we come back soon. Music from Berlin.
Radio Einheit.
Well, from the world, but people from Berlin. We had some great interconnection, something. We are in Gliese, no? We are so far. It takes 20 years to get to the Earth, a message, you know? In the speed of light. So when the sun is shining, it comes faster. So I don't know how you hear it from the air, from where you are. If you are hearing from the stream or from FEM or from our, I don't know, like spaces we keep to share. We have a really nice friend today, and we are back. Heather,
Thank you for having me.
you are really. How did you get to where you are? What brings you to where you are? Tell me about like your youthness. Like what inspires you?
What inspires me? Frustration with the system. I think a lot of people, there's sort of, you know what ADHD is, when you can't concentrate on one thing, you just keep skipping to different topics. And then some people are obsessive compulsive and they just want to do something intensely and nothing else. And I'm sort of both.
Radio Einheit.
So I skip around things all the time and I do them obsessively compulsively. So I've been in a lot of what I call systems, like, you know, like looking at the legal system or the health system or that system or in IT or news. And every system I go into it really intensively, and then I find all these things that I wish were different. And that inspires me to want to change everything bottom up. But yeah, and the internet is inspired. It's where I live, it's my home. It sounds, some people outside the internet think that sounds really sad and pathetic, but to me, ever since I first found it, it's not sad.
Kommt ja doch keiner.
And pathetic. It's telepathy. It's a place where you can communicate directly with somebody else's brains without all the other prejudgment and all the other association with any other ideas that they may show in their appearance or their associations. You can just get straight to the pure thought that they are having and collaborate just one pure thought to another. And the internet has always inspired me. I think it's just incredibly beautiful to me.
Morgen werden die Delegierten.
I'd like to see more of. I'd like to see us using it more the way we planned to use it once upon a time. Which was not
Die Mandatsträger der Parteiorganisationen.
for advertising web page area, wasn't it?
Mm.
It was supposed to be where we connected. It was supposed to be our telepathy, and it's turned instead into this giant billboards. It's like driving down a highway and seeing a bunch of billboards, and you can't communicate with anybody. It's just everybody displaying their own space, like a farmer's market or something.
Like trying to capture the space free to
Yes.
to profit from it.
Yes. So that's why I want to go back to the beginning, to a peer-to-peer network where everybody can you know, you can sit there in the darknet all by yourself, not connected to anybody, and be very secure. Your friend or your trust network. Or you can go out into the ocean and build things with people. Like what we were talking about with Stigmergy before, right? Instead of everybody on their own little website and worried about how many hits they're just getting or whatever it is. You know, you just into the ocean and everybody else builds on it. Maybe you come back, you have a giant coral reef or whatever that everybody's built and nobody owns, right?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what inspires me. Building awesome things together.
Like a big street full of white walls ready to be painted. Yeah. Yeah. And freedom so that everybody can create everything that they want to without all the restrictions, without all the rules. And then the user group decides what they want to use. Like, you know, I mean, nobody well, I guess YouTube does tell you what videos you can create. But within limits, I guess they don't tell you what video you can create. But the users tell you whether or not they like it. You know, they don't have to watch it if they don't like it, or they can leave you nasty comments, right? And I like that kind of creation where everybody's free to make what they want and the users are free to use it or not. So that's another thing that inspires me, using all of our brains different ways, like so that every individual gets to have their own contribution instead of moving as one cohesive block with a giant waste of all of us. What do you think about authorship?
Authorship.
Yeah.
Give me a bit more.
If you create this, if you create an idea, no? What? How do you think if you are part of a society, no, that wants to develop something?
Yes.
And one of the people is bringing an idea amazing to the project.
Yes.
How can you see this person can?
Yes. Well, sometimes they don't want credit. You know, some people are very happy being anonymous. Anonymous are mostly happy being anonymous and great ideas. But for people who have created something that is like their child that they created and put on the internet, I think, okay, there's got to be a way to compensate them, obviously, in a world where there's a financial system, but more than that, they should have credit. And I try to think why people don't give credit, you know, as in Creative Commons. Why would you cut and paste somebody's work and claim it as your own instead? And I think the internet can help with that, because right now is we have something, like if you go with just the mainstream, they act as a little echo chamber for each other, and they never tell you that they actually pulled all that story from, you know, a blogger or a tweeter or whatever. They just credit each other if they credit at all, right? But if you look at the bloggers, they do the exact same thing. They create their little clubs and they only credit each other too, right? The internet, in something that we were talking about with the news, like a real time, you can actually create, you can go back to the origin and you can find out who actually created something a lot more easily.
Unstable network at Radio 884.
Develop that further, that they originated with. Yes, anybody who's ever had an idea sees somebody with a bigger voice, more amplification, taking their idea, putting it in Al Jazeera, wherever, with your name excised off of it. And again, I think like a more open news system where everybody's allowed to contribute will actually start to get, more people will be motivated to make sure that the right person has the credit. And the people who just, even on Twitter and Weibo, people get very touchy about people stealing their tweets and their and their Weibo blasts, right? But yeah, I think it's just a matter of going back. Like if it was a more transparent system, unlike blogs and the mainstream media, you could go back to the origin a lot more easily. But in something like a knowledge repository, that might be a lot trickier because you're just dealing with facts, right? And unless somebody produced a source document, then there is no real source for it. it.
Nice. How long you stay in Berlin?
End of June.
End of June?
Yes. Unless I move here. I might move
Yeah.
here.
Do you like the city?
Oh, I love Berlin so much.
Do you want to create here a school?
Pardon me?
A school?
A school? Me to be a teacher?
At Bolton Street.
No, I like working universities. If information's all free and everything's transparent and everybody's allowed to contribute work and have it critiqued by the users, then we don't need universities. Every system's a working university then, yes? There's no journalism school, you just start writing.
Connecting.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Berlin's a wonderful place to create and to find people. A beautiful city.
Diversity.
Pardon?
Diversity. No? And really
diversity everywhere now.
actualize.
Yeah.
Ideas.
Very internet friendly city. Even if they don't have wireless.
What is your wish today?
My wish for today, or my wish for...
For this year. Wish for...
Oh, 2012. Well, there is something I started saying at the beginning of the year, because I've been involved in this particular phase of my life almost, well, definitely 7 days a week and ridiculous hours a day since beginning of 2010. And I said, 2010 we woke up, 2011 we stood up, 2012 we rebuild. And that's what I want by the end of 2012. I want to have a solid foundation of where we're going. By the end of 2015, I want the world to look very, very different. That's a very, very small goal, isn't it?
You don't want that? So simple.
I just want a world revolution.
We could just wake up at the morning and share a coffee.
Well,
and the university saying, okay.
2010 was all about really waking up the world, right? Trying to get people to look at what was in front of us, read it, look at it. The data was all there. Collateral Murder came out. Honestly, when I saw Collateral Murder, I couldn't stop saying, I couldn't stop shaking. It was the most horrible thing. And I thought it was going to change everything. And then I looked on YouTube a day later, and people had set it to music and were celebrating in the comments. It was the most horrible thing, and you think, if Collateral Murder would not wake up people, what would wake up people? And then in 2010, we saw so much. I started writing right after the Afghan war logs came out, because I didn't want another Collateral Murder. And I wrote something called A Stateless War, which sort of described how I wanted everything to go from then on. Which was, it's not the world against the US, it's not Muslims against Christians, whatever. It's the military-industrial complex against all of us. And just describing the swarm and describing Anonymous and describing what I thought was going to happen. And it basically all happened. By the end of 2010, I'd started a news site with activists all around the world. There were 70 plus activists from everywhere in the world that were contributing. We started Mumble chats. We started communicating on everywhere that people communicate and trying to force those systems into working for us. I did WikiLeaks news site for a year and a half called WikiLeaks Central. Honestly, didn't sleep for a year and a half, but just worked with some of the smartest people I know around the world. And that became obviously too limiting. Like, it's not structured properly. A website on a domain on a server, it's ridiculous. We need it off of it. We need a new system. And the Global Square, we started thinking about the Global Square at the beginning of, the end of 2011, really.
Cable network at Radio 8.
So that's been the goals. I mean, to get people to wake up. 2011, all of us, like, we had people from around the world, everywhere, writing as fast as we could about everything that was going on around the world. So 2011 we stood up, and 2012 the Global Square and everybody else that we're working with, we had time to rebuild. And
what it needs to change?
What needs to change?
88 for Adventist.
What it needs to change?
I think we need butterflies and alternative systems. So chaos, we got some with a lot of the information that came out. I mean, so much information came out that the Palestine papers, that would have come to the world in a different year. But they barely got a mention. Most people haven't even heard of it. There's so much data, and it did cause huge chaos. It woke everybody up. It did completely rock the world. Butterflies, we had many of them. You know, in physics, the butterfly effect, when it'll, yeah. We had many of them from around the evolutions and sparkings. We need alternative systems. Number 3, it's lacking. We've tried a lot of different things, but a lot of what we're working on in the Global Square, like the systems of mass collaboration, they're not going to be functional with a lot of the ways that people are doing things now. The Global Square has, you're allowed to have profiles and communicate with each other, and you're allowed to build, like they do in Spain, squares and task groups and events are 3 separate entities that you can build in the Global Square. But for systems of mass collaboration, global collaboration, we need a different structure. So the structure is stigmergy, as in you drop the idea, everybody is free to build, and the user group can accept or reject your work as they choose. We need concentric user groups where there's knowledge bridges based on expertise, so that everything is transparent, you can see it's being audited. But the systems we have now, either the experts are isolated away in a little pocket where you can't see what they're doing, or they're expected to come out and explain everything.
Aus der Tagungsstätte und zusammenfassenden Punkten.
To every single person on ridiculous expertise, we need auditing by other experts transparently so that we can all see. There's many, many principles that are all incorporated into the Global Square.
So Global Square is it's a social network, autodidact social network for do-it-yourself from everybody. Something like this.
We don't call it a social network or a Facebook alternative, but it is a social network. But from the old definition of social, as in society, we're trying to rebuild a society, not a social networks where you can talk about Justin Bieber's hair, which of course you still can talk about a celebrity's hair if you want to. You know, it's like N1. Nobody goes on N1 and makes a fan page to a celebrity, because N1's obviously an activist platform, right? And yes, the Global Square will be structured so that you can build things with it, instead of taking a social communication tool and trying to force it into, you know, like Facebook pages to create revolutions. We're trying to give them the tools in the first.
And how do you think that can be financed?
How can it be which where?
Finances.
Finances.
For Global.
Well, not just the Global Square, but all of us that are working towards solutions for a new society. That's one of the reasons we're getting together. Every one of us has to spend so much of our time looking for grants, trying to fundraise, doing this, that, or the other, and it's ridiculous. I mean, coders should be coding, users should be auditing, you know. So we do need to have some kind of an association between us, where we're not duplicating so much effort. We all have our own autonomy, but I'm not talking about the Global Square here. I'm talking about software solutions in general, like free software developers. So something where we can audit each other transparently, but we have sort of common goals and common resources that we can, if we wish, take advantage of, right? And where users can find out about us, give us feedback, and donate.
without blocks.
Yeah.
Donate.
Like a cooperative Kickstarter type
What
thing.
is? Yeah, Kickstarter is a good way to find donation.
Well, for some people, but for free software,
Direktübertragung aus dem Palast.
maybe it should probably be, you know, where it's like a free software co-op where users can go and see what the other developers say, see what the state of the project is, see everything about it. It's part of our own transparency. Users should be allowed to find out more about us than just look at our code. Like they should be able to see what.
You think it should be a kind of Wikipedia for free software foundation, where funds can be found?
Something like that. I mean, I think the funds would have to go to each separate project separately. Like pick the project that you like and that you use and support them, right?
Yeah.
But there could definitely be some kind of an association where you could find out about the different projects and what state they were in and everything about them besides just their code.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we have to go.
Okay.
But we can follow on the streets.
Yeah, thank you
Der Republik.
so much for having me on anyway.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and you can talk to us at theglobalsquare.org anytime, and we'll tell you what else we're doing for hackathons and things with our other friends.
Of course. I'm gonna be around.
Okay.
Next meeting here. Thank you very much. It's CLIES 581, 581. And we go to the street now. See you in Berlin. See you in the world.
Dessen Kongresssaal immer noch die Hochrufe tönen. Wir schalten zurück ins Funkhaus. Bitte, Herbert Küttner.